Hey, what's up? Hello everyone, welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
My name is Dyl, and it is time for everyone's favorite time of the week, draft time. But before we can dive in that, for all the new viewers out there, we have a very fun game that we're kicking off in just a few weeks. So Matt, take it away, tell everyone out there what is coming up here on the channel.
Well, we play a game called Fantasy Filmball, and it's not just a game for me and Dylan, it's a game that anyone out there can join into. So if you are an Oscar enthusiast, if you are an awards show junkie, if you are just a plain old movie addict like me, join our Discord in the description down below. You can sign up for the game of Fantasy Filmball, in which players are assigned to a league and are able to draft 10 movies onto their team at the very beginning of the year and watch those movies collect points all the way through award season up until the Oscars. Registration for the game is free and it's open until August 15th, so join before then.
But it is draft time, and I have to admit, I took the L last week at the Barbie watch list draft. So that means Matt has the first pick this week, and we are drafting A24 horror movies in honor of the new movie coming to theaters this weekend, Talk to Me. So Matt, take us away. What will be your first overall pick?
Well, I could go with one that I know would be popular, but I'm not a huge fan of most of Ari Aster's stuff, and I know that you are probably going to take Hereditary and Midsommar like number 1, number 2. That is all fine by me because my favorite A24 horror movie is The Lighthouse. That is the one I'm going to take first overall. I think it is a wonderful, surprisingly hilarious movie. It's an atmospheric gem in which Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe just speak like pirates to each other for 2 hours. I'm gonna be honest, I'm a huge wimp. I don't really love horror movies. So for me, the best kind of horror movie is the one that is just drenched in atmosphere and doesn't really seek to scare as much as it seeks to get under your skin, which The Lighthouse absolutely does. It is not a scary movie in the traditional sense, but it definitely gets under your skin in a delightful way.
I mean, everything that you just used to describe The Lighthouse, I feel like could be used to describe my first overall pick, and that will be Midsommar, as Matt alluded to before. I think this is the best A24 movie. I think it's the best Ari Aster movie, and it presents a star-making turn for Florence Pugh. And I think this is one of the most funny movies that we have on this list overall as a whole. And usually I'm not one to draft 2 movies from the same director. I avoid it with James Cameron. We're talking about billion-dollar movies. I have avoided it numerous times in the past, but today, this A24 draft, I can't really do that. I want Hereditary. I go hand in hand each day with which one is better, Midsommar or Hereditary. It's not to the same level as Barbenheimer this past week, but I feel like these movies are synonymous with one another. What one exceeds that, the other one could do better. What one fails at a little bit, the other one does so much better. They're 2 great movies, and I can't really pick which one's better, so give me one at 1A and one at 1B.
I called it. I said that you were going to do that.
You did.
For my next pick, I'm going to pick another unconventional horror movie, one that I think might be the scariest movie that I've ever seen in my entire life, and yet it's one that you wouldn't think of fitting that title. But when I first saw this in theaters, I was covering my eyes during the climactic scene, and that is the killing of a sacred deer.
Okay.
The thing that gets under my skin so much with this movie is just the way that it feels so familiar to our world while also being so distant, and the emotional stakes that come from this character being placed in a dilemma where he has to kill one of his family members or watch them all suffer and perish. This movie turned me around on Yorgos Lanthimos. Up until this point, I had not liked any of his films, but after watching it, I went back and I now love The Lobster as well. But The Killing of a Sacred Deer is really special for me. When it gets to that climax, when Colin Farrell's spinning around in his basement, waiting to see who he's going to shoot, the terror of that moment is pretty much unrivaled. I don't think I've been more scared in a movie theater outside of that, other than maybe one movie that's also on this list that I'm also hoping to snag a little bit later on, but not now, because my next pick, you took 2 Ari Aster movies, I'm going to take the next one, because while you would say Midsommar is the best Ari Aster movie, Beau Is Afraid is my number 1. It is, I think, the only 10 out of 10 movie that Ari Aster has made. It is his magnum opus. It is a ludicrous, ridiculous, again, not scary movie, but it is just so drenched in that sort of horror atmosphere that I absolutely adore. This movie made me feel uncomfortable in all the right ways. It is so audacious, so bold, so brave, and I cannot believe that he was allowed to make this movie. I mean, now all of Ari Aster's stuff is off the board, so what are you taking next, Dylan?
wasn't because Killing of a Sacred Deer is a bad movie. I was relieved. It's just when you were leading up to it, you used certain keywords that I would use to describe my next film I'm taking. And one of those keywords was the climax of the movie, because I am taking Gaspar Noé's climax here with my next pick. This, I think, is the most haunting, the most mind-numbing fuckery that is on this list as a whole, and I will forever remember the first time that I've seen this movie. And it's one of those movies where normally with movies like this, I'm like, yeah, I want to indulge again to see is it going to hold up a second time. But Climax is a movie I never want to watch again because it was so effective with its scares, with its haunts, with its thrills the first time around. And when you took Beau Is Afraid, you're talking about, oh, I took 2 Ari Aster movies. So like, oh, that means Matt's going to take both Robert Eggers movies. And you know what? He didn't. So give me The Witch over here with my next pick.
I'm going to be honest. I think you've already won the draft, but that's fine. I'm taking what I like. That's okay. Okay, this is sidebar. The craziest day of movie watching I've ever had was at TIFF. In 2018. I saw Steve McQueen's Widows at 10 a.m., Damien Chazelle's First Man at 2, Barry Jenkins' If Beale Street Could Talk at 6, Jonah Hill's Mid-90s at 9:30, and then Climax at midnight. That's the most insane day of movie watching ever.
I mean,
back to the draft, bangers. I don't think I've ever been more excited for every single movie that I was watching in one day. But back to the draft, my next 2 picks, I would give 5 A24 horror movies a perfect score of 10 out of 10. And it just so happens that I'm getting all 5 of those movies because my next pick right here is Jeremy Saulnier's Green Room. I referred earlier to saying that The Killing of the Sacred Deer might be the scariest movie I've ever seen, but there might be another movie on this list that challenges it. It would be Green Room. Green Room is horrifying. It is visceral. You feel every bone shatter as this punk band tries to fight and escape from these Nazi horde of people trying to trap them and kill them. Patrick Stewart gives one of his best performances of all time. It is an entertaining, exciting, energetic movie that just gave me chills. This is the first movie on my list where I would say, like, this isn't just atmospheric horror, this is just straight up horror. Highly underrated, which is also what I'd say about my final pick on my team. And with this pick, I'm throwing the game. I don't care. Give me In Fabric, which is more of a comedy than anything, but hey, it's on the list of A24 horror movies. This movie about a killer dress. Very hard to describe this movie. There's a dress that passes from person to person, and whoever wears the dress ends up dying in like a horrible ghostly way. It's so weird. It's so funny. Gwendolyn Christie is in this movie in a hilarious role, and there's a great bit about washing machines in it. I don't know. This is just campy and ridiculous and so much fun, and I haven't had a chance to go back to it since when I first saw it, but when I first saw it, it left such an impression on me, and that's why, like all the other films on my list, I'd give it a 10 out of 10.
I mean, you just take a horror comedy, so give me one right back. Give me one that is just as camp, just as insane, just as funny. Give me Bodies. Maybe it's a little bit of recency bias, but I loved this movie when it came out last year, and the jokes stayed with me forever. There's still some quotables from this movie that are at the top of my mind, and it's one of those movies where I feel like you can kind of suggest to a lot of different people to watch because it's so inviting. Maybe that's not the right word, but it's one of those movies that you can watch in a group and just have a blast. But Matt, you had the first overall pick, so recap what films you had with this A24 horror draft.
Well, Dylan, I just want to say I'm going to humbly concede victory to you on this one because
people out there can vote for who they want.
I just got bodied, but you know what? It's fine because I picked my 5 favorite A24 horror movies, and that it doesn't matter that you're gonna win. I got my perfect team, and that matters in here. But my team was The Lighthouse, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, Beau Is Afraid, Green Room, and In Fabric.
On the reverse side, I had Midsommar, Hereditary, Climax, The Witch, and Bodies. Regardless of what Matt says, everyone out there, go to the YouTube community tab and cast your vote. You can cast this however you like. You can go for the team that has your favorite movie. You can do this for the team that has the best collection of movies. That's what I suggest. But hey, do what you want out there, and whoever wins the draft this week will have the first overall pick next week. But before we get out of here, everyone out there, I just want to thank you for tuning into this episode. Comment down below what movie you would take first overall, because Matt took The Lighthouse. I would take Midsommar, but there's a lot of great choices on this list, so I would love to hear what films you want out there. But until next time, my name is Dyl.
And my name is Matt, and this is Fantasy Filmball.